my name is Gabby and welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, then welcome to my channel, and today's video is going to be my April 2025 reading wrap-up. It is a mix of audiobooks, graphic novels, and manga. I will have the content warnings I can find linked down below in the description, along with links to some resources, and let's go ahead and get into it. We are going to start by talking about the first audiobook that I finished in the month of April, and that is How to Live Free in a Dangerous World, a Decolonial Memoir by Shayla Lawson. And this is a travel memoir where the author discovers how the trials of marriage and grief and misconnections can lead to new freedoms and self-transformations, while disrupting the constraints of race, gender, and disability. Okay, so I started this book on the final day of the Trans Rights Readathon back in March, knowing that I wasn't going to finish it before that readathon ended, but I was also okay with that. It had been a while since my last nonfiction read. I wanted an audiobook, and I just wanted to read this book after seeing it get recommended during the readathon, and it was an interesting listen for sure. It was thought-provoking at points, and it was inspiring at other points. When it comes to just like finding the beauty in times that might seem hard at first, or might just be hard in general. I'm not going to rate this because it is literally somebody's life, and I don't tend to rate nonfiction anyway, but I am glad that I listened to it. Next up, we have the Tea Dragon Society, the Tea Dragon Festival, and the Tea Dragon Tapestry by Kay O'Neill. And the Tea Dragon Society is a graphic novel that follows a blacksmith apprentice after she discovers a lost tea dragon in the marketplace, and this leads her to a tea shop where she learns about the dying art of tea dragon care. And the Tea Dragon Festival follows our main character who has grown up with the tea dragons that inhabit their village. But the real dragon that she stumbles upon one day is another matter and mystery entirely. And finally, the Tea Dragon Tapestry once again follows our blacksmith main character as she struggles to create something inspiring enough to earn an apprenticeship while also caring for someone who is grieving. And this entire series was just super cozy and super cute, somehow even cozier and cuter than I ever thought it could be, and I thought it was going to be really cozy and really cute. I love the tea dragons and just the art and the designs as a whole. I also really love the characters and their relationships as well. There is a lot of heart here, and in the Tea Dragon Society there is also a love and appreciation for art forms that take care and long periods of time and patience, and just seeing the beauty of that and in the process. And I really loved and appreciated all of that as well. I will say, after reading this first volume, I did want it to dive deeper into like almost everything that it did, just to fully settle into the story, into the characters, and into the world more, but I do feel like we did that in the Tea Dragon Festival. And I did like this one more than I liked the first one, and I did really like that first one. I was kind of surprised to see that this graphic novel kind of went away from the first one and introduced new characters and just kind of did a backstory of sorts here, but I was also really excited that that's the direction this took as well, and I really loved that they did this. And I also just really love the new characters, and I love getting to see the characters from the first graphic novel again, and just all of the fantasy and the adventure. And also a focus on your craft being important, no matter how simple it may seem. Like, there were some really heartwarming and beautiful moments in here. And we got even more of that in the Tea Dragon Tapestry, where it felt like everything from these two graphic novels really came together and it incorporated all of the characters while still introducing new ones. And it felt like everybody got a space to have like a lovely, impactful moment and or story in here. Like, all of the messages in this entire series were so amazing to read, but this book just had so many of them just on its own. And there were so many great reminders and just things in here that were inspiring to me personally as well. It was so wholesome and so cozy and just so beautiful overall. I ended up giving the Tea Dragon Society 4.5 out of 5 stars, the Tea Dragon Festival 5 out of 5 stars, and the Tea Dragon Tapestry 5 out of 5 stars, which is going to make my rating for the series as a whole 5 out of 5 stars, because I do feel like reading these sequels really helped me love and appreciate this first graphic novel even more than I already did. Next up, we have another audiobook, and that is Mammoths at the Gate by Nghi, and this follows our cleric main character Ichi, who is returning home for the first time in 3 years, only to find out that their mentor has died, and not everyone is prepared to leave them to rest, as their granddaughters have arrived on the backs of royal mammoths demanding their body for burial. And she has to find a balance in between honoring their mentor's chosen life and preventing the sisters from storming their gates and destroying the history the clerics have worked to preserve. It has been a while since I have read anything from this series, and even though I did like this one, I think I wanted to like it more than I ultimately did, which just seems to be the case for me in this series in general, with the exception of book 2, which I did really love, but I also do think that this is my second favorite of the series so far. As always with the series, I really liked and appreciated the focus on storytelling and the message that not everything is always as it seems. I also liked how it tied into grief grief as well, and just how grief was explored in general. It just had a slower start for me, and my interest throughout the audiobook did dip at times, but there also were things that I really liked and appreciated at the same time, and I ended up giving Mammoths at the Gate 3.75 out of 5 stars. I did look at the description of the next book though, and I feel like I might really like it, so I definitely want to read that one at some point, and I also just kind of do want to finish the series in general because I am this far in and they're not long at all. But I also do want to try out other books from this author and just see if I like those a little bit more than I like the books from this series. But you know, both of those things can happen, it's just a matter of time, and I have no idea what that looks like yet. Okay, so next up we have volumes 1 and 2 of Fushigi Yugi, chapters 1 through 10 of Yokai Watch, and chapters 1 through 10 of Ninja vs. Gokudo. And these were all part of a video where I read 3 random manga series, and I am going to leave like my reviews and a majority of my thoughts on them in that video, but I will have that video linked down below in the description along with in a card somewhere up there. But yeah, these 3, it could have been worse, but it also could have been so much better. The tone and just the results in general were very mixed for me, but one of these series did really surprise me, so that was fun. Next up we have another audiobook, and that is A Little Rot by Akwaeke Emezi, and this follows a longtime couple who have just split, and in the aftermath of this split, one of them decides to visit an exclusive sex party hosted by his best friend, where he makes a decision that plunges them all into chaos and brutally upends their lives. So not gonna lie, the title is a little bit misleading. It is in fact a lot of rot. This book definitely has to be one of the darkest, most challenging, messiest books that I have ever read. Like, it was almost impossible for me to get through this at times just because of how gross and uncomfortable the content of this book was. And I will say, I think that that is the point here. Like, I think that that is probably at least part of what this author set out to do, and I do have respect for that. It certainly worked. I also did make the mistake of going into this book without knowing anything about it, which I would not necessarily recommend doing. I would recommend looking at the content warnings before reading or listening to this book just to mentally prepare, and especially because a lot of the content in this book can be incredibly triggering. But I have been wanting to read more of this author since reading Pet and reading Bitter, and I was seeing this one around, so I went for it, and what I got was what felt like a very real thriller with a handful of really messy, unlikable people, and also disgusting people, and sometimes people who were a combination of all of those things. Which, on that note, this book also does have commentary on power and what people do with it and what they can get away with. But from a thriller standpoint, I think the more thrillery this got, the more that I got fully hooked and invested in this book. Like, those parts flew by. But also at the same time, I didn't like this book. There's so much of it that I just never want to think about again. But again, that's also part of the point of this book, I think. Like, it is supposed to be this challenging and this dark. And I ended up giving Little Rot 3.75 out of 5 stars, but if I change that rating or just get rid of it entirely and leave it blank one day, don't be surprised. My brain is still very much comprehending this one. And next up, we have chapters 37 to 159, which is like volumes 5 through 19 of Windbreaker by Satoru Nghi. And this follows our main character, who is only interested in those he considers to be strong and has no time for those who he considers to be weak. He is just enrolled in Furin High, which is a high school filled with strong students who use their power to protect the town. And our main character, he's not interested in being a hero or any of the camaraderie. All he wants to do is just fight his way to the top of the school. And yeah, this is the series that just fully took over my reading life in April, and I ended up reading just some of my favorite chapters from this series. It has a lot of heart and a lot of beautiful and healing moments, commentary on loneliness, and just cute and healthy friendships. It made me emotional, and I loved it a lot. I also read what felt like the first major arc from this series, where all of the arcs up until that one just like combined and built up to this one, and that was really cool. And I also found myself more interested in the fighting scenes than I expected to be, because if you don't know, prior to reading this manga and only having watched the first season of the anime, I did not enjoy the action scenes at all, and it really impacted my relationship with this series because for the longest time I thought I hated this series. But reading the manga has really turned things around, and I have grown to have such a genuine love for this series and these characters that I never could have expected or imagined before reading the manga. And now I'm also really enjoying season 2 of the anime, which is currently airing at the time of filming this. So yeah, I'll probably have a full review of this series up on my channel at some point since I did catch up to it in early May. But let's go ahead and move on on to the other manga series that I read a lot of in April. And that is Ichi the Witch by Osamu Nishi and art by Shiro Usazaki. I ended up reading chapters 5 through 32 of this series, and this is a new Shonen Jump series that takes place in a world where only women can be witches until one day an unsuspecting boy acquires their power. So the last time that I talked about this series on this channel, I was honestly unsure if I liked it or not, and now I can say for sure that I do. I really do. They have a lot of really fun comedy, and there were so many times where I was bracing myself for a typical shonen fight scene that I probably wasn't going to love and was probably going to find at least a little bit boring and just kind of skim over, but then they would get silly with it and just have some fun, so I also had fun with them. And it just felt super refreshing, and it also makes me really excited to keep reading the series because I know that I'll probably have fun with them. And I just want to see what else they're going to come up with in terms of comedy, but also in terms of their story and the magic that's there. Some of the comedy is also darker as well, and they balance that with like the silliness and the wholesomeness and the heart that this series has really well. Because this series is also really cute and really charming at the same time, with a lot of really amazing characters and designs and overall art style, and I am just really excited for the future of this series as a whole. And now it is time for the other manga series that I am currently caught up to and reading as a release over on the Shonen Jump and K-Manga apps, including chapter 125 of Kaiju number 8, chapters 32 and 33 of RuriDragon, chapters 91 to 194 of Blue Box, chapters 153 to 156 of Akane-banashi, and chapters 77 to 74 of Kagurabachi. As for K-Manga, we have chapters 22 and 23 of Galaxios, chapters 129 to 132 of Gachiakuda, and chapters 145 to 148 of The Fragrant Flower Blooms with Dignity. And while my favorite of those series that I just listed was definitely Gachiakuda, a lot of these series had really good chapters in April. A Fragrant Flower Blooms with Dignity and also Blue Box really stood out to me as well. But yeah, Gachiakuda, I had a really amazing time with these characters in these chapters. There were so many fun moments, and I feel like I mentioned just like how good the group chemistry is in this series every time that I talk about it. But they were really thriving for me in these chapters. Again, there were so many fun moments, and we're also really starting to get into the next arc of this series. So I'm really excited about that as well, and I was and am just super invested in this series as a whole. Okay, so that is all that I have for today's video. Thank you all so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell, and answer the question that'll be around here if you want to do that, and hopefully I will see you here next time. Bye!